All right, welcome back. Thank you for attending. We're going to dive right in. You are on the conversion from culture to culture. Here we talk about the real nitty gritty, of course, prep with a build up that sort of gives us background and context, because that is very important in terms of where we're going with the actual changes in our community we want to see. So I am thankful for you joining us here live, and those of you who are here, and thank you for those of you who are have tuned in virtually. If you're unaware, the Conversion is a conversation platform, of course, but also it's a opportunity for activists to actually be involved in what we want to see in our community, what we want to see in society. And at the very least, it gives people awareness around some of the things that is very important, but may be covert, that may be a little bit less obvious to most of us. So the premise here is to really consider how evolution, if you will, of economies, evolution of society, and our communities and our culture really creates opportunity for us to do things differently. In addition to grow and prosper financially and in every other way, there is opportunity for us to grow our community, become more cohesive and more collaborative with one another. So periodically throughout time, there have been events that force changes and transitions from wars to collapse in economies. You have technological advancements, disease, political upheaval, cultural shifts. A lot of things cause society to really wake up, pay attention, and say, hey, you're going to have to pivot here. And here we get to talk about that, But still we survive, and still we rise, and still we continue on. It's just in what footprint, in what manner, right? So the purpose of the Conversion in this platform is to help people recognize global transition in real time. It's to study historic examples and the success and failure of adaptation so that we can learn and move forward in the direction we want to go. We discuss how communities can rebuild intelligently and intentionally. We encourage organized, strategic action rather than fear and denial. There's no reason to be afraid. You're not alone. Humanity is a communal species. We like to be together. We work together. So there's no reason to feel fear. So lastly, we will be chronicling the transition from culture to culture. We talked about culture, those customs, practices, behaviors, norms that we embrace in our communities, and how those things impact our prosperity and our well-being. So this season, as you all know, we're focusing on when the world changes as the theme. And the central question is, what happens when systems and people depend upon the systems that, or each other, I'm sorry, and when each other needs to change and figure out our new way forward. So let me be clearer on that. We'll be answering the question of what happens when systems and people, norms as they know it, change, and then they need to figure out some way to move forward. What do we do? How does that work? Today's episode, we're going to dive into a bit of a reflection right now, which is kind of fun. I'd love to hear, any of you out there, certainly those of you are here, we'd ask you to use your survey pads. But for those of you who are on the video, you can certainly speak up, and we can share your comments on the screen for everybody to see here. So some opening reflections. We'll spend a few minutes talking about that. And I'd like to start with the real, I believe, familiar experience of summertime cookouts. Um, Most of us remember a time when, and I'm speaking specifically to the guys now, when we would get up, go out to wash our car. And when I say wash the car, I'm not talking about sprinkler water or drive through the drive through, right? I'm talking about when you detail your car yourself. You got that bucket out there, you got the suds popping, you got the vacuum cleaner going, you got the little tree hanging up either on the rearview mirror or you got it in the back. And you're doing this because you're going to the cookout. And the cookout is generally at a park or somebody's house, and you want to roll up in your ride, and you want it clean and sparkling. Why? So everybody can see you, right? But what was going on in that procedure, in that exercise? You know, it's a social thing, and it wasn't just you riding up, right? Because other brothers rode up in their car all shiny too, right? So really, we look deeper. What's happening there? That's a cultural experience. That is a an event where everybody know the way forward. And I profusely apologize, but I'm going to turn the mic open a little bit because my computer is saying that I need battery, and I don't want to lose the people online. So bear with me. But I'll open it up. I think we got Dr. Cornelius online. You want to come in about just reflections about social experiences you've had, or you want to embellish the cookout experience, or any comments you want to make to the audience here? Pardon me.
Well, just to piggyback off of what you're saying, when I think about um, uh, cleaning my car and and going out and um, starting to just get my day started, get ready for the cookout, or yeah. So the biggest thing is we I think the phrase was coined. You had to be fresh. You had to be clean. You had to represent. And in that time frame, we knew that that's what it was. If you did not come and show up like you were supposed to, there were going to be some repercussions, and I mean some fun repercussions. People are going to talk about you, and you had to stay on point. And but there was nostalgia there. You got the opportunity to pull up on somebody and say, okay, I see you over there, I see how clean you are, and that's what you wanted. It's almost like the likes today that you get on social media. You had to get that like. You had to get that from your compadre. So for me, it was fun, it was fresh, clean. Life was a little easier, and you showed up at the cookout, with your car clean, you had your wheels shine, and everybody, gave you love and respected you. So for me, a bit of nostalgia, a bit of a time frame where we love things, we love looking good, and we love each other. So that for me brings back a tad bit of nostalgia. So that's what it reminds me of.
Right. And you know what? Thank you for tapping into that, Dr. Cornelius. And what you demonstrated is exactly what I'm trying to get at here. You know, with just mention of a few cultural practices that we did, there's a sense of nostalgia, there's a sense of familiarity that really bombards your memory and your senses. If I were, for example, to throw a few more out, and some of you may know these, some of you don't, but if you remember Kung Fu Theater and what happened during that time, and if you remember, if I go back far enough, if you remember disco on roller skate night, if some of you remember high school football on Friday night, you can remember and many of you may even have other ideas of things that when you think about, it really reminds you of home, or it reminds you of a place of security, or at the very least familiarity. I mean, obviously there is good and bad, right? You could say some negative things like, if depending on your experience, You can name a few things that a person be like, well, that was a horrible time. I was traumatized by that experience. But I think what I'm pulling at here is, reflections help us, anchor to something. And fortunately or unfortunately, in depending on the case, people anchor to experiences and cultural sharing situations and events. Um, and they're really difficult to divorce. They're really difficult to separate from. And I'm so tempted to just go on and on about some of the reflections because so many things come to mind. I get excited. Even back in the day, young people may not know what's happening with this, but when breakdancing was popular and people walking around with the big boom boxes, you know, but not to even go back as far as that, if we, come up a bit, but just not long ago, people used to listen to CDs, compact discs, and they used to put those in your car. And now many cars don't even have a CD player. So again, I think that I'm beating a dead horse here, but the idea of reflections, opening reflections, is to remind us of a time when we were safer, or as I say, at least familiar. Because I want to bring us to this observation. Um, Around 1929, okay, the world, particularly investors, those of us with interest in like 401ks and various securities, where we were very mindful of our financial investment, savings, and security. And I raised this example for a particular reason, if you just bear with me. But around that time, there was a stock market crash, the crash on Wall Street. And despite all of the examples that was demonstrated, despite all the indicators and things that were saying, hey, this is coming, this is happening, many people ignored it. Some people knew about the risk, but they just didn't want to let go of what they had established as a custom, as a system. And that crash persisted for 10 years. So enormous wealth was lost around that time, from 29 to 39, 1929, 1939. So that, and I don't know. I mean, maybe you, Dr. Cornelius, or certainly anyone here, as I say, please just enter your information in your app. But maybe you have examples of a scenario when you were holding on to something, a system, a practice, behavior, the way things were, and you recognize later that maybe that was a place where I should have pivoted. Just to bring it in because it's relevant also, even within relationships, maybe you held on to a person or a group or an institution a bit longer in hindsight than maybe you should have. And it was not because you didn't see the indicators. It's not because you didn't see the red light, but because you just didn't want to let go. If you can think of any of those, please enter them in the system. And just for clarity, for those of you who've never joined us before, we try to do these live on Sunday mornings like this. And people who care to come to the studio here have apps, they put it in. And then on Wednesday, I write up a report and share with the larger community, not the video, but what transpired during this conversation. And you could see an example of that on LinkedIn even now that's posted. So on Sunday, we do the recording. On Wednesday, I do the report. And then I release the topic for the next week. But I digress. Thank you for your attention. So Dr. Cornelius, it's me and you today, it looks like. Is there a scenario that you can think of? And certainly, by all means, no pressure for anybody to share anything too personal, but are there scenarios where you think in hindsight, you held on to something just based on nostalgia or reflection when you probably should have transitioned?
I think about this this topic often when you know that you should pivot. Um, I think that and not giving a particular situation, but I'll give my thought. Sometimes we get conditioned to stay the course on things, even if it's painful, even if there's indicators there that let us know it's time to pivot. Um, I think about it all the time. I think for me, it's a conditioning that I need to make sure that I don't shake up my norm uh, in order just to be comfortable. So
Mm,
I would find myself being afraid, and I'll say that being afraid to make a change because for some of us change is difficult. We want consistent and we want things to go smooth. And even in an environment when things are not going great, we still find some form of consistency there. I get up, I go into this job, and I do a job that I know to do, and it pays the bill for me, and that's income coming in. But
mm,
there's something in you that knows that you need to pivot, and you know when your time is up there. And sometimes you just say, I'm just going to stay a little while longer because maybe it's not what I think it is.
mm,
Or you're afraid to change. If I change, it's going to disrupt my norm in terms of income coming in, how I'm paying bills, and things of that nature. So, what I will say is if there's a burning desire for you to pivot, um, I feel like you should take that chance. Take that chance. If you've been successful in change before, because change sometimes don't come from you, it comes from someone else. They say, "Hey, we don't need you anymore," or "This is the situation," and then you kind of have to be strong enough to move away. I would tell anyone to pivot when you feel like it's necessary. Get your ducks in order and make sure that you have a plan as you pivot. Yeah, it's going to be painful, but if you've been successful in the past, you're going to work through it. So I've seen situations where I had to pivot from jobs or got different leaders, different leaders come in and they make changes. And so um, I'm 50-50 uh, in that area. And I know I've spoken to Dr. Hali before about pivoting and what that looks like. And so if I was to give any advice, I would say don't be afraid to pivot because I'm at that juncture in my life and pivoting. And that's about as much as I have for that topic right there.
Hey, I appreciate, thank you for your, thank you for
Mhm.
your transparency. And anybody, any of you, of course, like I say, you're other than Dr. Cornelius, who's here on the screen for everybody to see, your responses are anonymous, so please share them freely. But it's a big deal that you say, in this moment that you brought it relevant to today, because part of the whole point of the conversion here, and you'll hear it, through other episodes moving forward, is we are all at a point of transition and needing to pivot, um, as individuals and as groups of people, subpopulation, races. We can no longer hold on to things that were comfortable and familiar because society as we knew it is no longer the same. It is a different place. The details, how much we know about the details depend on your individual effort to research and stay abreast of what has happened recently. Recently is in the past year, what have you. But as you know, everyone knows we steer away from politics and anything like that. But the reality and the fact of issues that impact the society and the way we live it are things we have to face. And if we don't already have plans to manage or deal with, as many people didn't have in 1929 when the stock market crashed. We're going to have to really move quickly to adapt to the new world order. So it's very important that we realize that now is a time to pivot. And that sounds scary. And my intent is not to scare anyone here or on the screen, but my intent is only to inform and to help people realize you're not alone, and it's okay to be afraid, and that you have support and colleagues in us and around you. So the biggest thing is to recognize that it is definitely time to reconsider everything from your investments, how and what you choose to educate yourself with, the educational opportunities that your children may have, the path you take. It is now. So we have a whole section or segment or episode where we're gonna talk literally about what has made this change necessary. And again, we stay as far as we can from politics per se, but we still talk about those real and material things that has happened recently that absolutely mean this is not coming. This is not a fantasy. This is not something we can wait till it recovers itself. This has happened already, and we're in the middle of it. And so we really have to plan for that. But that's for another episode. So just to belabor the point just a little bit, I'd like to point out, as we've gone from this reflection, this recognition of things that we could hold on to the idea of a literal event that has happened in history. And many of you can think of others in your personal life, and I'm raising Wall Street stock market crash. But then I think it's important, as you massage through in a healthy way the journey you're on, to also recognize and identify the pain it caused you, to recognize and identify the new situation you're in, to recognize and identify your need to have a plan. We always talk about our principle here, ADC, awareness, decision, commitment. And there's a whole nother episode on that, so I won't dive into it now. But I think it's important that we take the moment to recognize what happened, okay? So I'm asking you in this moment, take a moment in the example you gave, or the example that came to your mind, and consider what happened in that scenario where you felt like, man, in hindsight, I should have pivoted. This was the scenario, I knew the clues and I didn't, and I should have. Did you adapt successfully? Okay, I would say you did. You're here today, you survived it. It's behind you, and you're ready to move on. I would say you did. And you, of course, can be as critical as you want about yourself and to yourself about what you wish the outcome to be. But I would say you survived it. So your adaptation to the new way, think a little bit about what that took beyond courage. What did that take in terms of your ability to get up out of your chair, get out of your house, get out and to go and make that change? Okay. So I'm moving into a little bit about the human response. And we're going to take a few minutes and kind of talk about that. We're going to talk about just briefly, and I'll go down a list of things, and you can decide which resonates with you, and if there's a part you want to dive in a little bit closer. There are people who watch our programming and who have contacted me. Many of them are psychotherapists, they're spiritual leaders, they're healers, and they have a lot of strong comments. And when we start to do these on tour and live, we'll invite some of them as guests and speakers to speak to you directly. But the human response includes a plethora of things, right? Denial. It includes panic or anxiety that comes with that, right? It includes opportunism. It includes leadership. It includes propaganda. It includes resilience. So I'm curious to know, and again, Dr. Cornelius, if you want to chime in, no pressure here. If you want to talk about that aspect that you would perceive as just a human response to the progression through this journey we're talking about. Any one of those, if they give you support and comments.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Haley. I would say the first thing is when you're thinking about pivoting, um, the first thing that comes to mind is fear. There's fear there. Then you figure out, well, what am I gonna? How am I gonna pivot? What does that look like? Then you think about in pivoting, do I have a backup, a temporary backup, in terms of financing or support. Then you come up with a plan. You have to have a plan before you pivot. And I think that the biggest part of that, even if you have a plan, there's still going to be fear there, the unknown. Um, what's going to happen? What is things looking like? Um, what can I scale back that's going to help me to stay focused, stay consistent, not lose anything as far as being able to maintain. Um, so for me, just thinking of a now looking back, thinking of a pivot that I had to do. I was working for a company that I felt um, I wasn't going anywhere within that company, and so I wasn't happy. So I made the change. I jumped out there and I started a business. That was a pivot for me, and um, so it was painful because it was something consistent that I was doing or some consistent income coming in. And you can stop me if I'm going down the wrong lane, Dr.
No,
Haley.
no,
But
please, please.
something that was consistent. But the biggest thing was peace of mind. Uh, it gave me a peace of mind to pivot. In our day and age today, we're being forced to pivot. We're being forced to pivot, and the question is, are you prepared for this pivot, but any pivot going forward?
Mm,
What does that look like? What is the structure of your household, the structure of your finances, and things of that nature? So for me, you have to safeguard finances, and you have to think about how you're going to go about doing that. And secondly, you got to make sure you're protecting your family. Um, there's a plethora of things that you need to think about when changes come. So I've had extensive conversations with Dr. Ali about what the future looks like and what changes are coming. And he's always said, "Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you prepared?" And we always have to be prepared. It's kind of like when you have to have a certain amount of money in the bank and for incidentals or emergency fund. That's the same way we have to look at being prepared for worst case scenario. And if we look at the state of our nation right now, are you prepared?
mm.
What are you doing to make sure that when that change comes and it's here, how do you feel? Are you comfortable? Are you okay? And if we're here right now, obviously talking about it, we have a plan. We have a plan in place, and we're congregating in this point to make sure the rest of us have a plan in place for this pivot that we have to make. The biggest thing for me is fear for what it looks like, and the fear for my family. You know, what how does my children navigate the next 5 to 10 years? And what does that look like for them? That's my fear. But I
Yeah.
also have uh, the bandwidth, if you will, to make sure I could put things in place that help guide them along the way. Um, so as far as that's concerned, I feel like I'm prepared. I've done some things that makes me feel comfortable, um, but I'm still fearful because there's still some unknowns coming down the pipe.
I again appreciate the transparency. So fear is a major emotion that really restricts people's mobility. It really restricts their imagination. And we'll talk about that too. There are some of the spiritual leaders who really dive into those aspects. And I don't want to go any deeper than to say that many of these aren't rooted in truth. They're rooted in beliefs, misinformation, um, and anxiety that is created by society in the way we get information, absorb information, the handicap we're developing by not having the patience or endurance to actually take the time to read and study. So some of it we're taking off the shoulders of the communities. There are those of us, I'm a population health and implementation scientist, so it is my duty to own the responsibility of thinking ahead and planning and preparing for subpopulations and for people to have good health and wellness and live a good life. That's my field of work. But you just can't rely on my analysis, right? Because everybody is different. Everybody have a different set of circumstances. So yeah, the human response include fear, probably at the top of the list. But it also includes some optimism. Many people thrive in intense environments where things are uncertain. And they tend to get up and say, oh, I have an opportunity now to do this. And that's the attitude we're trying to express and show our listeners here, our people here, and everybody involved with our collaboration. The conversion is us saying that we have a roadmap for this opportunity that is before us to convert our communities from culture to curature. And as I've said, and I'll say a lot, the idea that your customs, practices, norms, behaviors, and your society at large is conducting itself and participating in all of those things in ways that uplift you, that promote preservation. And we should actively deny, reject, and get away from those behaviors, norms, practices, customs, etc., habits that deteriorate our opportunities for success. If you're participating in a behavior and it is contributing to your own demise, no matter what society say, no matter who your friends are, no matter who you're rolling with on that, you must develop the courage to say, I will no longer do that. That does not feed my spirit. That does not feed my energy. That does not feed the path that I want to take. And in these times in particular, I will have the strength to walk away from those things and embrace a curature so that I can be well and healthy. I will move on, but obviously I can demonstrate a lot of passion around some of these topics, and I thank you for understanding and recognizing that. But so as we recognize that some of our traditional habits and things we hold on to, and we reflect on what those are, and then we start to understand that there is a need for change. And we start to build plans and take actions and be a part of groups and work with people. And it may mean that we have to reflect on what did we learn from the times where we didn't pivot when we should have. And we start employing those lessons today and moving forward. Because as I've said, this is not negotiable. What we're saying here is not something that's an opinion of mine only. And in fact, it's not even an opinion. It's an absolute reality of the world today. The world is a different place. So we're going to have to get up and we're going to talk about that. So as we look at everything we've said thus far, bringing it forward into the modern context, we have a plethora of things that are absolute in front of us that no one can deny. And I'm just going to list a few of them, AI disruption or AI opportunity. I think both of those coexist. And we will dive into, again, later we're breaking this whole conversion down into segments so that everyone can actually be on board and understand. So AI has a role in the future. That's truth. And corporate America and society has already embraced that. That's not something that's up for debate. Job displacement, economic instability, declining institutions, healthcare transformation, political transformation, political polarization, social media, cultural fragmentation, okay? And let's not forget personal reconciliation, what's happening in your brain and your heart, and in your spiritual place. All of these things are becoming less stable because the norms around how we practice and engage those things have changed. If we hold on to the old way of viewing these things, we are on the struggle bus. We are on the bus of demise. It is time for us to modernize and come into that. So as I talk about some of these modern parallels, obviously, as a health professional, I'm going to focus in this moment in healthcare, wellness, and healing. And I'm going to say this probably in every episode we have, okay? And I hope you hear me. If you get nothing from all the conversations we have throughout all episodes, please hear me. The healthcare system in the United States, or that thing that you call the healthcare system, okay, will not fix. Let me let that sink in. It will not fix. There may be some wonderful media promotions that talks about some of the great things the healthcare system is doing, and perhaps it's truthful, and perhaps it warrants a celebration. There may be some conversation about progress being made, and there may be some stories about patients who've survived conditions and who have been treated successfully. But the bigger picture of the healthcare system as we know it will not fix. I'm going to spend significant time breaking down why the healthcare system is as it is and why it won't fix. And I'm going to give you, because we have dedicated episodes for those, I'm going to give you just a few points in this moment. The healthcare system, as you know it, is not designed, it was never built to provide wellness and healing and health for you. It was designed as an acute address to an injury. It was designed to keep you, the workforce, working, okay? It wasn't designed for you to be well. And you've heard me say before that health is a point in time. It's a single point in time. It's a status check. It's a report. Wellness goes out through continuum. It is the time, all those days, it's your daily living. It's the time you lived up to the point of that health check. So if someone say, are you living well? They're saying, are you living your life in such a way that every day you're contributing to a positive health outcome for you in that moment? That's why when you go to the doctor, they put you on the scale, they check your blood, they do all that again, because that's just that one point in time. They look at it in aggregate over time, like how has your weight fluctuated? What has your blood labs resulted in time? Are there any changes, right? But that's a point in time. It reflects everything you've done prior to getting there. So what we know as health professionals is that in order for us to see the changes in health outcomes we want to see, in order to give people a true good life where they live well, they live healthy, their brain doesn't have fog, Their vision is good. Their breathing is great. They're not suffering from erectile dysfunction. They're not suffering from chronic diseases, all types, heart disease, diabetes, et cetera, metabolic diseases. We want people who are living well and happy. And there's a way to do that even in the American capitalistic system. But we'll talk about that in turn. Thank you for allowing that small pivot, diversion there. So let's talk a little bit, moving on in the time we have left, about the community action section. And I hope you are becoming accustomed to these conversations with each topic that we have, in the order that I'm going through it, because it really gives us an outline, which is our goal, right? The conversion is providing that path, that direction, that navigation for you to get to wellness. Okay. So if we ask, if in consideration of everything we've discussed, have we asked the question, or what is your answer to what should people do? We see the problem. We recognize its relationship to why it is so persistent and sustainable, because we just really don't want to let go of that old way. Moving into new ways is difficult. But now what should we do? If we wipe away all the inhibitions and objectively think about what should we do? Just honestly, what is the path forward? Do we say, well, we should do nothing? Or do we say we should sit and wait and see what happens? Do we say, let's take the opportunities we have with AI and everything else and apply them to the old ideals of where we come from? Instead of thinking of AI as new opportunity, new chances, new horizon, let's create. We say, how do we make AI do what we did 30 years ago, 100 years ago? I don't think so. But of course, your choice is yours to make. What we're offering here is the way forward, the way for growth and prosperity. So do we build local networks, new local networks, redesigned health systems, not community-based healthcare, where a large health system put an office in your neighborhood of a continuation of outcomes we've already seen for the last 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 years. We don't need more of the same, except we have access to it. What we need is something that fixes the problems. That's what we need. Do we diversify skills? Well, yes, we do. Do we rethink careers? Yes, we do. And I'm saying this from an individual standpoint and from a community and national standpoint. Do we organize new community economies? Yes, we do. Do we improve health resilience by integrating more of the community as provision of the health services you need, instead of continuing to look for someone outside your power to provide health services to you? We're going to talk about that. Yes, we do. And how do we prepare psychologically? And how do we increase our adaptability? So these are all things we're going to talk about, and you'll hear them. We'll talk about them with each conversion episode. And then as we go through it, we'll start inserting solutions and answers to these real, practical, sustainable, forward-thinking, modern pathways to the way we should move forward. Okay. So I have to ask this question in closing. If your current way of life, and at this point, I'm talking about maybe a year ago, because we've already acknowledged that you really don't have one in the moment. But if our current and traditional way of life disappeared, which we know it did, right? What skills, relationships, mindset should you still allow in your space in order for you to not only survive, but to thrive? If the life you knew disappeared, what do you do? And that's why we started the segment with reflection. I wanted to help everyone understand that as the things you remember, all those great memories, that's fantastic, but they're memories. They're behind you. Okay. To create the new memories for the future, you have to create the situation and the circumstance that allow you to prosper in the new world. You don't want to have memories of suffrage, right? So we have to figure out how to do that. Okay. So I open it up just for a moment to Dr. Cornelius. If you have a question, comment as we began to wind down. I want to thank all of you again, those of you on the web, those of you here, for your attendance, for your engagement. I thank you for your activism, because your presence here, your comments, your participation here really gives us the momentum to test our research, to test our resolve, to test our ideas as we together move forward. So I'll ask Dr. Cornelius if he has any comment. And of course, you all please type in your apps.
Thinking about that as far as what AI is bringing, and if I had to change, fortunate for me, I have a extensive background in several different things. So um, I think that I I think I would be okay in pivoting. I will say that, be it bad or good, AI is here, and you have to figure a way to marry what you've done over the years to what AI supports your skill, how it supports your skill set. And if you have not, if it does not marry together well, then this is a great opportunity to learn all things AI and tools. Yes, I know you have some negatives and you have some positive. Yes, it's bad. Some people don't want to learn it, but it's here and it's not going anywhere. It's in every discipline. It's going to take jobs. It's going to give jobs, and you have to understand what part you're going to play in that. At some point in time, your home is going to be AI. When you walk to your door, it's going to be AI. You're going to have to adapt to everything that goes on in your home. They are ushering AI in at an alarming rate, and you just have to, hey, let me get on board and find what my niche is as it pertains to AI. There's ways that you can uh, generate income, but you have to find that. For me, I'm already just learning things that I could pivot to. But my background kind of massages its way into AI. So I feel like um, I would be okay. But to everyone else, you just have to find an industry um, with AI, and just get to know it. Something will come up, but now is the time. You can't wait on it. You can't wait. You can't sit back idle and just think it's going to be a passing phase. It's just like when Ford made the assembly lines. They had more people making Model Ts before he, like hands on deck before he made the assembly line. That cut so many jobs. So what people had to do is they had to learn how to use the machines. And once they learned how to use the machines, those were the people that were able to pivot properly. Not sure if that helps out, Dr. Haley, but that's
Well,
my
it
thought.
does. It does. And again, thank you for your comments. I mean, I should let the audience know that Dr. Cornelius is a doctor in computer science. So it's kind of he knows what he's talking about. And if it didn't sound good coming from a doctor in health sciences, certainly you can take it from a doctor who's in computer science. So absolutely, AI is one of the aspects. We will talk about, though, the installation, and I may even title that particular segment episode called "The Installation," so you'll remember when you come back to it. Um, and just as a heads up, in a couple minutes we have left, um, If AI intimidates you, don't worry, okay? We will create training opportunities right here that you can begin to march with us through your education and your learning and your adapting. The speed in which it's being integrated in society is quantum. It is fast, really fast. So it's already happening, okay? But don't worry, you're not yet behind, right? You have to get on board. And for those of you who just in your mind, remember you're just holding on to an old way of thinking that's comfortable for you. You just feel like I can't learn that. I'm too old, or I'm too fixed, or I'm too established, or that's too complicated. I encourage you to be encouraged, because we're going to talk about ways that you can take that piece, because AI is massive, okay? And we'll talk about it, and perhaps Dr. Cornelius will lead some discussion when we get specifically down to those chapters. But we'll talk about you finding your piece that promotes the role and the work you do at home, at work, and your new opportunities that you can learn, embrace, and allow you to develop the confidence to say, oh, wow, I can do this, no matter how old you are. I dare tell you right now, we're in communication with people over 70 who are embracing AI happily and who have the right attitude and personality. It's giving them new horizons, things to look forward to. They're retired and they're interested. So there is room, there is space, there's opportunity for you. Related to that is the direction we're going, which is based on community. So we'll be developing new health and wellness systems that will support you. We'll be developing tools for you to learn right here that will allow you to be a contributor in these systems, these new community-based systems, okay? So stay tuned. Thank you again for joining us. We look forward to talking to you again on next week. Have a great day. Be well.